Yesterday, this stock was only $3 per share. Today, it hit $17.50 per share. We're going to break down exactly why KALA went on such a crazy squeeze, how you could have traded it, how I actually made a plan on it, and just kind of breaking down everything from locating the stock, making the plan, doing the due diligence, and actually figuring out how to plan the trade with risk management in mind. So we're going to go through step by step through the entire process so that you are better prepared for the next one. And hopefully you could profit off of that trade. So with that being said, if you enjoy this type of trade breakdowns, do me a favor, let YouTube know by hitting the like button. If you have any questions at any single time, drop them down in the comment section below. And I hope you enjoy this lesson. Let's just kind of start from the top, and look at what the news is for this company and understand exactly why it is just such good news. The first thing you can see here on my scans, the float is only 1.2 million shares, which is a very low float. I definitely should have focused on that a bit more in pre-market. I don't even think I noticed that it was such a low float, to be honest. You can see that today it traded nearly $500 million of volume, and the actual volume for the day is about 50 million shares. So it rotated its float quite a few times, right? So very strong stock. You can see up 240% today. And you can see that they did have news that they announced FDA acceptance of IND application for their treatment of PCED. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know what PCED is. Let's see. I guess it's some type of eye defect. And they received FDA acceptance of their application. So that is a bit different than FDA approval. Basically, just says that the FDA is accepting their investigational new drug into the lead candidate. So overall, very, very strong news. As most of you know, for these biotechs, especially these small cap biotechs, their entire success kind of hinges on their one main product that they're trying to push through trials and they're trying to, get into market. Having the FDA do this is obviously very, very strong. You can see there's also a thing down here too, where it says, in addition, you can see that they sold about 43,000 shares of their Series E stock at $575 per share. Now, that's not the same as the public stock that's traded, but it just overall says that they raised gross proceeds of about $31 million in the private placement. So pretty loaded PR, right? Number one, they have FDA approval. Number two, they raised a decent chunk of money through investors by selling off some shares. So overall, pretty strong news for a low float stock. Now, we were watching this in the within the pre-market webinar, and initially for me, the main thing I noticed. So let's just kind of go through the daily chart, because that's always where I want to start out when I'm looking at these stocks, right? Just kind of mapping out exactly what we have in front of us and what we can expect this stock to do based off of historical prices. So the main thing that I saw right away was that we did have a pretty obvious previous resistance down here, right at about $7. You can see that that was also a big volume day, where that day it traded about 8 million shares. Now, obviously compared to today, that's nothing, but in pre-market, that was a pretty significant level. You can see that on that day, the VWAP was also right at $7. So it just kind of reinforced the case that there is some resistance there. But after $7, there really is no resistance at all until this next level up here, all the way at about $11 per share. So just off that, you can see, okay, well, if it can break out above 7, it has no resistance until $11. That is huge range. And then after that, next main level up near 1350s. There's also a VWAP level up here near $15. And then really the next main line that you can kind of see is this 17 area, right? There's a few points all in this prior history where it kind of, tried holding it as support, it broke down, then overall was holding that area as resistance, before falling lower. So overall, a pretty good daily chart, right? It has a lot of range between the resistance levels, and it could really, break out in a big way if people get behind it. So with those levels marked off, now what I want to do is go into the intraday. And the main thing you can see is that, okay, well, in pre-market, it actually was respecting that $7 resistance, right? It was holding against it, quite a bit. Obviously, news came out yesterday in after hours, but, overall through the extended hour session between yesterday and today, it was showing us that it was respecting that $7 resistance. So initially, the main thing I wanted to see was, okay, well, if that is such a big resistance line, for me to really want to get behind this, I want to see a breakout over that, right? Now, I don't want to buy the breakout because I don't do that anymore. But, like the main thing I'd want to see is just, kind of a break over it. So just a break over it and then retest and hold and then enter into that pullback off of $7. So that was the main plan I had. Obviously, as you can see, the stock was just too damn strong because it never really gave us that pullback down into $7. Now, but there was also one other trade that I did see. Let me just pull up the watch list from today. You can see I said, for me, I want to wait till it can break out over $7. But there's a potential, like just to have an earlier entry off of the hourly chart level at 608 with a max loss at 524. And that trade right there worked out pretty much perfectly. So let me bring up my screenshot of that hourly chart from Thinkorswim because it really was, pretty much perfect. Now, this is something that we've noticed too, right? Just in the past 2-3 weeks or something like that, overall for these small caps, we're not really seeing a lot of them give us that opportunity of getting that break and retest of pre-market high. A lot of them, once they break out in the morning, they just kind of rally and run. And I've, been trying to adapt to that. There have been some trades in the past week or so where like I have adapted with these earlier entries, but I missed it on KALA today, which definitely, as we can see, was like the biggest missed trade probably of the month because it ran so far. And I had the plan in mind. I could have easily taken the risk, but I just said, you know what? Let me just wait to see if it can break over 7 and hope for that pullback. Obviously, never got that pullback. But as you can see here from the hourly chart, if you look at the line chart from pre-market, that resistance was actually at $608. And next support lower is down at 524. So let's just bring up the trade planner real quick because this is obviously a very important tool that we use here. And let's just say, you have even like a small account, like $5,000, right? So the max you can lose on the trade is $100. Entry price, 608. Max loss, 524. First planned profit, we can even just say like 7 or whatever. So this tells us that, we can take 119 shares. And that might not seem like a lot, right? Because, it's not that much size. But even if we had our first planned profit at like $11 into that first resistance, you can see that, you only have to lock in 20 shares at that first partial. And then you still have about 100 shares left over. And so this is the beautiful thing about small caps and why you really can't be afraid of just taking small size as long as it's planned around risk. Because if you can, catch on to these massive runners, having 100 shares from $6 all the way to 17, that is, $9 per share. You're going to grow your account quite a bit just off that one trade. So let me just mark off that 608 level from the hourly because you can see that was pretty much exactly where it bottomed, like almost down to the dot. You can see after market open came around, that first 5-minute candle, the low of this candle was 604. So if you planned out that trade, you sent your orders just before market open, you would have got filled perfectly on this dip. And this thing just kind of rocketed right off it, halted upwards, and then there was really no looking back. So, just kind of a lesson for myself, especially with this current market. Number one, I definitely underestimated how far this stock could go. I didn't really recognize the power of the low float that much in pre-market. I'm going to look back at the pre-market webinar for myself and just kind of look at what I did. But I definitely missed a few of the key indicators for this. But most importantly, I made the plan, but I just wasn't willing to take the risk. And that was just a stupid, naive mistake, right? Because I had the plan all, laid out. I definitely could have just taken it and then see what happens, right? Because there's no way to guarantee which trades are going to work. But as long as you can manage the risk through a plan, then it's always worth taking that risk. And yeah, like I said, this is just such a big missed trade. So basically, after it broke out, I was just patiently waiting for it to give me some sort of pullback down into $7, and it never came. And because for me, I really want to restrict my trading to just, trading stuff that I really know as far as systems. even though I knew that the stock was so strong, I couldn't break my rules of just trying to make money on it, because it would be nice in the moment, but I've just learned through my years and just through stories of like hundreds of other traders, or when they do that, they really start to slip up, and they could chase another stock, maybe not manage their risk, maybe double down. And it's just kind of that slippery slope that you can fall into that kind of breaks down all of your rules. So I just try to stop that at the very beginning by just telling myself, if I miss the best trade, I just need to wait. And so this thing, consolidated well off VWAP. I don't want to trade off VWAP, broke out higher, halted a few times, and ran all the way up to 17 bucks. And as you can see, using those past levels, right? Doing that due diligence of marking off levels, prior to the trade is really beneficial, because now, if you are long this at $6, you have levels that you can actively lock in partials into. You have 11 bucks, 13.48, 15 bucks, and 17.50. So you'd be locking in partials all along this point. But as far as the stock goes right now, I mean, obviously it still is very bullish. Technically, just from the 5-minute charts, perspective, this thing is bullish as long as it holds 938. Like, at least as long as it holds that, it still is very bullish. Right now, it's kind of, downtrending into that support, but overall, it is very strong. But at the moment, I don't see a trade. So I'm just kind of waiting and just sitting on the sidelines to see what else we can trade. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much KALA. Number one, right? It's always so important that when you're looking at these stocks, have some type of scanner, know what's moving in pre-market, obviously. And once you see these things, just a low float with news, do a bit more research, dig into the news, exactly what it is, and determine for yourself, just based off your education, is it bullish news or is it bearish news? And, for a biotech company, having FDA acceptance, that is bullish news. And then obviously, before anything else, look at the daily chart, mark off your levels so you can exactly see where you're going to see resistance if this thing does spike. And it has that kind of bonus effect of, if you do get in the trade, these levels are where you're going to want to lock in partial profits. And when you do that, right, not only do you just kind of have more like scaffolding about, what the price can do, but when you have these big targets, it will help you get that patience to not just sell right away, right? Not sell for 10, 20, 30 cents per share, and know the potential of how far it can go and where the main resistance points are. So all very important stuff. Overall, very strong stock. I wish I took the entry off $6, but hopefully this analysis helps you in your trading. All right, so if you enjoyed that lesson and you stuck through the entire thing, then it probably means that you like the way that I teach and you are able to understand the concepts that I'm teaching you. If you're a new trader and you're struggling in the markets, I know that you can go out and try to learn it all by yourself. I did that same thing, and it took me years to finally, grasp it all and make an actual system. But I want to shorten that learning curve for you. So I have a lot of free content down below. Number one, I have my 1-hour trading course that you can sign up for completely for free to get an actual roadmap of how to trade. And also, I want to invite you to my community of traders with a 14-day free trial. You're going to get a course, a chat room, and you can talk to me directly and ask me questions. So I want to help you on your journey. I know it can be very stressful, very hard to kind of figure out all the pieces, but I've already made the puzzle and I want to give it to you solved. So if you want that content, please click the links down below. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next video lesson.